here we go. Episode 11. Hello, Toddcast.
Here's the sad news, Sandy, is that there is some research out there that says that podcasts usually last about 20 episodes and then people give up on them. So we've got to work hard to keep this one going.
I know. I think we're doing well. I'm pretty happy with how we do. And
with all of our listeners in Belgium, where is it that they're from?
We rock in Belgium. Belgium loves us. I have no idea why Belgium loves us, but they do. They do. So hello to all of our listeners, our followers in Belgium. We love you so much. And we can't forget Germany and India and all of our followers in the United States. And it's so funny to look at because we can look at our stats and you can see exactly which states our listeners are from.
What is it, Virginia or West Virginia or something like that?
Virginia and New York State are our two top, but we also have Florida, Texas, Mississippi. We have California.
Listen, I've got some Mississippi stories for you, and it has nothing to do with ghosts, but we'll talk about that another time.
Boy, maybe we should do a whole podcast on Todd's Mississippi stories.
There was the owner of the radio station I worked for. I think I can say it. His name was Mr. Holiday. He would talk a little something like this, not too far off from bejesus, but it was his own thing. And he'd say things like, Miss Millie, we're going to go have a seat on the veranda. Would you make us some mint juleps?
Oh, my.
Yeah, that was Jackson, Mississippi, circa 2000.
The South is amazing. We were in Louisiana. I think it was 2010 we were in 2011 we were in
I was Louisiana. In 2011 in Louisiana too.
We were in May.
I don't know. But I think it was more fall.
Oh, okay. We were there in May and we had the best time in the world. We did New Orleans for several days, but we also went into the really deep southern part of the state. We were in, and I hope I'm not butchering this, Houma, Louisiana.
No idea.
Stayed at a beautiful bed and breakfast with an ex-judge, and he told us all of the speed traps down in that area as we were eating breakfast with him that morning.
Roads down here, young lady, because if they pull you over and they find out you're from New York, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
That's right. He was very kind to us, so thank you to that judge. I can't remember his name, but he was great, and the Southern hospitality is just fantastic. So we have a lot going on this week. We have weird news. We have Twisted Towns, Todd. I'm so excited to do Twisted Towns again. It's one of my favorite things that we do.
What's this town again? What are we working on later today?
Well, this week we're going to talk about Remsen, New York. That town is just about a half hour north of where I live, and it's got some great legends attached to it. Very, very old, incorporated around 1792. Settled around 1792, and just fantastic stuff to talk about.
All right, looking forward to that. I did want to ask you a question.
Okay.
About paranormal, okay? Paranormal activity, energies, spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And we talked about things like poltergeists and all that kind of stuff, and I guess when you're a paranormal investigator, and I think when you're someone who has abilities like you do, being Claire Huxtable, what are you, Claire?
I'm very Claire Huxtable.
No.
Claire.
Listen, honey, you're nowhere near Claire Huxtable. Now, there was a lady.
Oh, boy. Now I'm saying it myself. I'm Claire sentient, Claire cognizant, and probably other things, too, that I haven't even discovered yet.
So you've got that, or if you're an empath and you're dealing with that, you've always got to be open to learning and understanding, even if it's not inside your wheelhouse, even if it's not something that you completely are down with. I think you have to be open to it, whether you're talking about aliens or Bigfoot or anything like that, right?
I totally agree.
And every once in a while, I'll watch one of these, when we call them ghost hunting shows, but these paranormal investigative shows. Every once in a while, I'll watch one and something will go bing, the little light will come on. And you're like, wow, that is interesting. Cause I kind of thought the same thing, but I was kind of afraid to vocalize it. And the ability of humans to cast energies out into the universe and have things happen. I think that's just an interesting topic, and I don't think we think of it enough when we're investigating. I think it's kind of on the back burner, and yet I think we need to start thinking of that a little bit more. We know that energy is energy. We know that we give off energy. It could be negative energy, positive energy, whatever. We know that's all going on. When we do something, if we send out negative energy, that affects other people. Okay.
I agree.
It may just be not being friendly. It may just be not being kind. And you put that out there. But I think that it can be even deeper. I think it can be people putting out energies and other people actually being harmed by those energies. And we saw an episode of Kindred Spirits last week that really, it was a light bulb for me. Like, I bet this happens more often than not. And I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
I agree. And we were just talking about the other night, you asked me if I had seen it yet, and I didn't realize you were watching it at the time. And I said, what a great episode, because it was intense. It was a different type of episode because it was a different perspective on a haunting. This woman actually was, I guess you could say, perpetuating the haunting, and it was harming someone in her household. It was her energy, her pressure, her negative energy, the negative things that affected her in her life were manifesting into negative energy within the household, sort of, I guess, egging it on. And it was harming someone else. It was affecting someone else in the family. And I thought it was very interesting. Two things were very interesting. Number one, that she was sort of aware of it because she mentioned a couple times that she was trying to control it.
Right.
And the second thing was that it was her father's girlfriend who was affected by it, but not her father. And I found that really interesting, which leads into another question. Can we subconsciously decide who it affects?
I think it's very possible, to be honest with you. If you've got underlying feelings about an individual, I think when you send out negative energy, in this case, I'm not saying on an everyday basis, but I think when you send out negative energy, it could certainly turn around to hurt that individual. We had an experience when my mom passed away. Not a lot happened, but we were getting little things happening here and there. And the more things happened, the more myself and my sisters and my family members were getting worked up over it. It was bothering us. It was freaking us out. And the more freaked out we got, the more stuff happened. And the more stuff that happened, the more stuff that happened. And when we were finally able to kind of calm down and go, okay, listen, yes, this stuff is happening. None of it is bad. No one's getting hurt. Let's just settle down a little bit. Things calmed way down, but we were perpetuating.
Right.
I think our energy is being ramped up. We're perpetuating other things happening. And so I just kind of wanted to get a thought on that because I think it happens probably more often than not.
I agree. And it's something a lot of us don't think about, which is why I thought this episode was great. Not just that, but the fact that I saw Adam get really pissed off and Adam Berry get really pissed off and angry and being very forceful, which is something he never does.
Yeah.
But we've seen examples of people creating, there have been scientific studies on it, of people creating something out of nothing, just because collectively as a group, they believe that this is true. Hauntings have been created, I guess more theoretically in that instance than scientifically, but they've been created by a collective group of people believing in the same thing wholeheartedly. And so it happens. So we don't know what our minds can do. We don't know. We all know that energy obviously exists, but we don't know what our minds are capable of truly in situations like that. So I totally believe that that's quite a possibility.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. Wanted to get your take on it before we kind of got into the meat and potatoes of the podcast.
Well, I have a quick question. I was going to ask you the other day, and I got thinking about this. What is your thought on the fact that so many people who see apparitions seem to see apparitions we'll take women, for example, ladies in white. You never hear of a lady in a red dress. You never hear of a lady in, an orange dress. She's always in a white dress. And I decided that I was going to kind of look at this from a different angle the other day, rather than thinking, well, everybody's crazy or everybody's making that up. How is it possible that every single apparition that someone sees is in white? Is it something within the energy itself that it only can come through a certain way? I just wanted your thought on that, because I know it's kind of obscure, but I thought, why do we only, I was in an investigation last fall when we all saw something white forming, and it looked to be the very, I guess, generic outline of a woman's torso, and it was all white. And
so my thought process is a couple of things. Number one, are you seeing a mist that's trying to form into something? And because it's misty, it automatically comes across as white.
right.
Or do our minds, because we get conditioned to believe certain things.
Mm-hmm.
We get conditioned to be afraid of certain things in life.
Right.
So if we're conditioned that when we see an apparition, it's going to be all in white, is that how it presents itself to us?
Exactly.
Do these energies present themselves in ways that we feel they should present?
Right. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm getting at. I just think it's kind of interesting that everybody's white. I thought, is it that, as you said, are they presenting themselves the way our minds think they should look? Or is it that the energy can only present itself that way? I prefer not to think that everybody's crazy or that everybody's making something up. We don't see them in Technicolor very often. It's usually white or a black mask, but that's something different. So it's just, I agree. I think that maybe it is our perception of it. Again, we don't know what our mind can deal with. We don't know what our mind can accept, what our mind can see. If they're trying to communicate with us in some way, maybe they're just doing it in a way that they think we will connect with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, just a quick question, because I found that interesting. I was going to ask you the other night, but I thought, let's talk about it on the podcast, because I thought it was just an interesting thought. So, yay. And your sister and I are friends on Facebook now.
All right. I really only have one thing to say to that. And it's pretty much this. I mean, that's just not a good, that's a big and another big. So
I love her. She's great.
You don't know her. You didn't have to grow up with her. No, my sister, actually, I have two sisters and both are very, very great in their own ways. They're very different and both are wonderful.
Yes. And I plan on friend requesting your other sister at some
Don't
point.
do it.
I love to torture you. I love to torture you. All right. Are you ready for some weird news?
Let's go.
All right. That was so funny. I know your sister's Dawn, right? Yeah. All right. Okay, Todd, this one's strange. And it's funny because you sent me the story as I was finishing writing up the story myself.
Good.
That's our relationship. We think so alike. About 100 people were parked outside of a Tesco in England recently. Now, Tesco is a grocery store in England, and they were unable to get into their cars after their key fobs stopped working. It wasn't all at once. It wasn't 100 people standing in the parking lot at once, but the problem occurred over a period of 3 days. And in some cases, even car alarms were going off. Nobody seems to know what the heck happened. The police are looking into it. So far, they haven't found anything, but they said they don't believe it's a case of foul play, anybody messing with systems. They're just asking people not to panic, which is asking a lot, because it's kind of odd that all of these people, I guess it would be worse if it was happening to 100 people in the parking lot at the same time, but just kind of weird.
Yeah, but it's one location. And so then your mind starts going through the process of trying to come up with a reason. And you may say, well, they may have some security situations there, and somehow it wipes out the memory in your key fob as you walk through. I mean, stuff like that has happened. It's just kind of odd that it happened at this one location.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, over 3 days, police there are like, please don't call the cops. Just talk to the store officials, and they'll work with you on it. So,
But my question though is, if it happened to about 100 people over 3 days, I'm sure there were more shoppers than that, and just as many of them were using key fobs. Was it not working for some and working for others? And it just kind of an interesting thing. Like, could they possibly narrow it down? Not that it's something the police, I guess, need to spend a ton of time on, but just kind of a weird story. I don't know.
yeah, like maybe that group of people came through a specific entrance of the store, passing security stuff, or maybe they went to a certain department of the store that nobody else went into. I mean,
Right.
there's all different ways to look at it. Or they were parked in a certain location in the parking lot, so that the UFO that was flying overhead kept zapping those cars over the 3-day period. Something like that could be the cause too.
They were preparing them to be zapped up into the UFO.
That's right. We're going to screw up your key fob, and then you watch out. We're going to poke and prod you.
I think we've decided that that's what's going on. I like that one.
I'm good
That's
with that.
my favorite.
All
All
right.
right. So this story I love. And I think some of it has to do with the idea that I am, and here we go, I'm claircognizant, which means that I just know things. Things will come to me. I'll get visions. I'll get just names will pop into my head, things like that. And sometimes just knowing things is, you don't have to have special abilities. Sometimes it just is a connection between people. So 2 women who became really close friends while working at the same restaurant, they discovered 9 years after they met that they're biological sisters.
Oh.
Now, that is just crazy to me. The 2 women are Julia Tinetti and Cassandra Madison. They met in 2013 and they became really fast friends. They really bonded. They realized they both have Dominican Republic tattoos. They both were adopted. They knew they were adopted. So they just really bonded and became friends. So half seriously, they thought one day, well, maybe we're related. They didn't think too much of it. They checked their adoption paperwork. It didn't really match up completely. So they just sort of put it in the back of their minds. Later on, though, they didn't want to give it up. Later on, though, they found out that the paperwork was actually wrong. So Cassandra found her biological family, and they told her that there was another girl that had been put up for adoption. So the girls took a DNA test last month, and the rest is history. They are biological sisters. And here's the kicker. They actually have 7 other siblings that were not adopted.
Wow.
There are 9 total children in this family. They not only did they find each other, but they found 7 other siblings and their parents, who apparently are still together.
Well, listen, and then apparently they only have one thing that they do, because if there's that many kids, that is crazy.
I know. Can you believe that? And there have been stories over the years of biological siblings, parents, family members growing up, a block from each other and finding each other. But this was just crazy to me because I have a sister out there somewhere who is a couple years older than me, who my mother had and gave up for adoption. And I searched for her. You're my sister? Why are you raising your hand?
I'm your sister. Taniqua.
That's it. I thought we were soulmates, but really we're just biological sisters. Todd.
Yeah. And I've gone through the change. So yeah. Whatever that is.
So I just am fascinated with the idea that somewhere out there, my biological sister, and I have 5 other siblings. So I guess you just never know.
We gotta look into that. I think that'd be a fun little thing for us to do.
We should. My journey.
I've got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Claircognizant, is that what it is?
Yeah.
All right. So here's my question. Things come to you. Like, why don't like everyday things come to you? Like, say, a recipe for a really good goulash.
I wish it did, or the lottery numbers.
Well, I was just going to say lottery numbers,
anything
wish. Like that. Why doesn't that stuff come to you? Why is it always the woman's name on the staircase is, Wanda from 1872?
You know what's funny I thought about that. I thought, well, why do certain things come to me and other things don't? And I I think it ties into being an empath, being a really strong empath. I think that the energies kind of, without sounding funny, the energies kind of speak to me. And if I'm I find that when I'm concentrating on something like an upcoming investigation, or I'm thinking about it, it'll just come to me out of nowhere. And we've talked about this previously, how we'll just have things, and you've had this too. And I think it's rooted in the fact that you're a strong empath, that things will just come to us, mental images or names or something. I think they're trying to connect with us before we even get to that location. I don't think it's a case of knowing, and I'm sure there are people out there who, can predict other things. And I just don't think that's my ability per se. I think they reach out and they connect. I had that EVP that time where I was asked where to start an investigation, and I pointed out one place, and there was an EVP right after that said she's coming. I think they're aware of it. I think there's a connection before I even get to a place sometimes.
So here's my impression of like you showing up someplace and just the overall conversation of the spirits there, okay? Oh my God, we're so screwed. The nutcase is coming. The nutcase is coming. The nutcase is coming. That's kind of what I feel. No, because I'm going to try for a better voice on that. Let's see if this one's hello. Oh, that's even better. The nutcase is coming. Here she comes. Someone tell her how to make a good goulash.
I love goulash. I know goulash. I'm going off on a tangent. You've never had goulash? Ugh.
Why would I have goulash?
I don't know. It's good.
Isn't that Russian?
So you don't have to be Russian. You don't have to be Mexican to eat Mexican food. I would never eat a
Russian food.
Or Chinese to eat Chinese food.
That is true. That is true. I don't know. Weird. Goulash doesn't sound good.
Weirdo. It's delicious. Anyways, so yeah. So I think that has something to do with it and I also think that I block things sometimes. I think that I even subconsciously, I don't necessarily do it on purpose, but I just think I block things sometimes. It's right. It's for your own mental sanity when you're dealing with this kind of stuff.
I think so, especially if you start talking really about being psychic and a medium and all that kind of stuff. I would think that could get real old real fast.
Yeah, we've heard stories of psychics and mediums who have, these are people a lot of times that have dealt with it since they were children. Like I didn't even realize what was going on in my life till the last few years, and then it's been a slow journey. But a lot of them learn as children how to deal with it, and they learn how to block it. Amy Allen, who is a psychic who's on the Dead Files, she said several times that she just turns it off. When she's living her quote unquote normal life and not investigating or not taking on a case, she just turns it off. She can do that. I don't think I do that consciously. I think it's been a defense mechanism my whole life, is that I turn it off without realizing I'm doing it for my own sanity. And now I'm kind of playing with it because I'm sort of learning how to turn it on, which is weird. The whole concept to me is very odd. And I second guess myself a lot, which I shouldn't do. And I'm learning not to, because now I'm finding that I'm usually right, which is really crazy. And it's really creepy to me, but all right, exciting.
So let's try a test. What am I thinking right now?
That I'm talking too much and you want to do the buzzer.
Not bad. I was just thinking how crazy you are, but that's pretty close. I'll give you a nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So that's weird news for this week. And I just thought that was a wonderful story. All right, Todd, it's time for Twisted Towns.
Let's go.
Located in central New York State, the small country village and town of Remsen is quaint and picturesque. The epitome of small-town rural America. It's filled with farmland, rolling hills, and historic landmarks. The town was first settled around 1792 and is named after Henry Remsen II, the original proprietor of the township. Remsen, New York has a population of approximately 2,000 residents. Remsen has made a name for itself over the years, with several prominent people living there. Major General Baron von Steuben is interred in Remsen at the Steuben Memorial State Historic Site, which was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1986. Local woman Erin Hamlin, a luger, is the first American woman to ever win a luge world championship title at the 2009 Luge World Championships. And she's the first American to ever win an Olympic medal in singles competition, winning bronze in the 2014 Winter Olympics. But alas, with the light, there must come darkness. Remsen is not all that it seems, for there are many legends in this small town, passed down through the generations, mostly centered around one specific area, Star Hill. Star Hill is a dagger of forested land protruding upward along Route 12. It separates the quiet country village of Remsen and the neighboring town of Steuben. Star Hill is part of the area's odd history, which includes tales of witchcraft, murder, and perhaps even some lingering spirits. Now, let's dive into them a bit. Are you ready?
I am.
Remsen, I am too. Remsen, New York. This is great because the other day I was telling you that I live so close to it. I have been to this area specifically for this reason many times over the years. Everybody goes up there. Teenagers go up there. It's an old sort of seasonal road. Part of it is a seasonal road. It's way up north, and people just go up there to see the lights and the spooks and all the craziness and to make out and do all that kind of stuff. So I've been up there, and there's a couple of different legends that are associated with this area. It's actually gorgeous, beautiful. And then there's a really heinous murder that happened, along with some other ideas about more buried bodies up there. So we'll go through all of it really quick. But the first legend is about the witch doctor of Steuben. Now, the area was settled in 1792. It was primarily Welsh immigrants. The house that I investigated a couple weekends ago was actually not that far from Star Hill. The whole area was very, very heavily a Welsh population. And these people were very superstitious. They came from the United Kingdom back in the 1700s, very, very superstitious people. So the witch doctor of Steuben was actually Dr. Daniel Roberts. He was given the quirky title by the Welsh immigrants because he tended to take on some different types of treatment options and experiments with his wife, Jane. He practiced hypnotism, which back then was completely unheard of. Nobody even knew what that was. It was kind of a fringe science at the time. He explored the use of potions, alternative healing, and so the Welsh settlers just thought this was a whole bunch of black magic going on by Dr. Roberts. Nonetheless, he was held in high regard by the community for the treatments that he provided because he was, for the most part, successful. And one night, while riding over Star Hill on his return from a house that he got called to one stormy evening, he was thrown from his horse and he died. So since then, locals have described encounters with a ghostly lantern bobbing up and down Star Hill Road at night, which supposedly is Roberts trying to find his way home. Many, many nights, local teenagers have spent up on Star Hill Road looking for the lantern. I actually know a few people who have told me, and they're pretty credible people, that they have seen a light on Star Hill Road. Now, we don't know for sure, Todd, whether it was the lights from a car on a distant road. We don't know really what it was, but it's kind of kept this legend alive over the years. His grave lies in a cemetery on the outskirts of Star Hill, and it's easily accessible. A lot of people go up there. If you want to go into the strange history of the area, you should check out the cemeteries up in that area. I love cemeteries because they're so historic, and you can get a lot of history from a cemetery. So to take a deeper dive, you can find an unmarked road off of Star Hill Road. Been there. It becomes a dirt road and it leads into a heavily wooded area and right eventually to Hatch's Pond, which we'll get into in just a few minutes. The second legend of Star Hill is the rocking chair. I have to raise my hand and say I've done this too. We all have. Everybody up here has done this. Now, as you go on Star Hill Road, deep down into the forested land, on the right-hand side, there are a few houses on the other side of the road. But on the right-hand side, there is an old cemetery, very small cemetery, but an old one. And the legend says that there's an old man who used to have a house behind the cemetery deep in the woods, and he would sit in his rocking chair all the time. And you can't see the house from the graveyard. I've been to the graveyard itself. I never went into the woods to see if there's a house, but it's probably far back in if it still exists or parts of it still exist. When the old man died, his rocking chair would be left alone and guarded by his spirit. Some people say he was practicing black magic too, and he sort of put this curse over the rocking chair. So naturally, in the afterlife, he's sticking around and hanging out by his chair. The idea is that anybody who sits in the rocking chair is at risk for an untimely death, with the seventh person the eventual victim. And, then the count begins again. So over the years, I know plenty of people have gone up there, and most of them have never found a rocking chair. They've never found a house. But I will say this, a few people have said that they have found a rocking chair and they've sat in it. I don't know if somebody put a rocking chair there for fun.
Okay, but why would you sit in a rock? Okay, now, if you believe in any way, shape, or form that some old guy, hey, I'm going to put a curse on my rocking chair. The seventh person in a row who sits in it will die. So why? Okay, so you find a rocking chair. Let's say you walk back there, you find a rocking chair, right? You know the story of the tale. Why do you sit in it?
I wouldn't.
You could be number 7.
I wouldn't sit in it. Because I know too much.
You would.
I would not.
You would be like, but I know I'm safe. I didn't feel anything bad. It was just fine.
I hate you.
That's what you'd be like.
I hate you. No, because I know too much and I don't want to mess with it. I don't like creepy stuff like that. Like I'll talk to a ghost, but
I'll walk into a black mist any day, but I'm not sitting in a rocking chair.
You're gonna let that rest. You're never gonna let that rest. Never. He's just gonna bring it up for the rest of our lives. No, so I wouldn't do that though. I never even, if I had really wanted to, I would have gone in behind the cemetery. The cemetery itself is really creepy because it's very old, and it's in the middle of a forest. And I'm sure there were people settled in there years and years ago, but now it's completely just barren. Like I said, the other side of the road goes into a town called Boonville, and that's way up north. And that side actually has people who live in houses. So it's not seasonal, but the other side is. You can't get up there. You have to wait until at least probably June before you can get up there because it's so wet and so mucky and muddy on that road that you're going to get stuck. Unless you have a 4-wheel drive, 4x4, you're not going to get in and out of there easily.
Got it.
And the other weird thing about that whole area is that there's some sort of weather or military installation on this sort of like little offshoot of the road. And I was just up there, Dave and I were just up there. We took a drive last fall because it's beautiful. I sent you the picture somebody took from the view is absolutely gorgeous. You can see Oneida Lake. You can see the mountains. It's just beautiful up there. There's a lookout where you can go park, and just look at the valley. Just beautiful. Make out. Well, that's Star Hill Road. But so we went up there and we were driving around. We couldn't make it all the way in, but we went to the installation and there's signs everywhere that you can't trespass and you can't go near it and blah, blah, blah. And so that's a little spooky too, because the fear of the unknown, nobody really knows exactly what it is. There's a big white bubble. Looks like one of those soccer Those, when they have the soccer stadiums,
Yep.
it has some big white thing. It's kind of creepy too. So it just adds to the whole mystique of the area. Now, the big one that Remsen is sort of known for attached to Star Hill is the Bernard Hatch murder story. And this is an actual story. Now, Hatch is in prison, and I'll get into that in a few minutes, but he, to this day, insists that he is innocent. He hasn't been released from, and he's done, for what it's worth, he's done good things in prison over the years. They might actually consider letting him out if he would admit to the crimes and apologize and show regret, but he won't, because he says he did not do them. He said he was a bad boy back in the day, but he did not commit these murders. So the whole Bernard Hatch thing, he's a suspected serial killer. His nickname was Hatch, hence the nickname Hatch's Pond that we'll talk about. But he's also known as the Potato Hill Killer. That whole area is also known as Potato Hill. I have no idea why it's called Potato Hill. I don't know if they grew potatoes on it. I don't know what was going on. He is serving a life sentence at Cayuga Correctional Facility for the murder of Mary Rose Turner. According to his indictment, Hatch abducted Turner while she was taking an early morning stroll in 1973. I love, another reason why I love doing Twisted Town so much, like you said, Todd, we sort of pick places that we're familiar with. Although I want to sort of I think next time I do it, I'm going to pick a place that I've never been to before. But what I love about doing these is that these places that we talk about, we're either extremely familiar with or we've been there ourselves. And I know exactly where in Utica Hatch worked, where this supposed abduction occurred, and it just sort of connects you with the whole story a little bit. So Mary Rose Turner was taking an early morning stroll in 1973. The story is that he tied her up and dragged her behind his vehicle up on Star Hill Road. He dismembered her, mutilated her. Her faceless torso was found in a swampy, muddy grave near Potato Hill Road in close proximity to Star Hill. So that's where all of this kind of ties in. And this was in 1973. Hatch said that his attorney, Stephen Polinga, who actually eventually became the mayor of Utica, he informed him when he took the case that he knew why Turner was killed. He had heard that Turner was a whistleblower, was probably making trips to Albany to report fraud that was occurring at the Oneida County Welfare Department, where she was employed, and that her killing was a message to warn others against doing the same. Now, Hatch says that as far as he was aware, his lawyer, Polinga, never shared that information with law enforcement. Authorities believe that Hatch is responsible for many other local unsolved missing persons cases. Law enforcement has long held on to the belief that Hatch was responsible for not only the death of Mary Rose Turner, but other women as well. On December 8th of 1973, two hunters found the skeletal remains of 22-year-old Linda Cady and her 3-year-old daughter Lisa Cady in the vicinity of Turner's grave. Hatch may also be connected to the 1970 disappearance of his ex-girlfriend, Lorraine Zinicola, and her 3 sons. So not only are there women who have been murdered and found buried up there where Mary Rose Turner was buried, but children as well. And the thought is that gangsters used to, in the 20s and 30s, would bury bodies up there too. So there's really no way of knowing how many bodies are actually up in that area. They also think that there are bodies in the pond, down underneath all the dirt and soot and sand that in the pond, that bodies are buried down there as well. Locals have long speculated Hatch used the Star Hill area as a secluded burial ground, perhaps inspired by the mobsters of Utica who did it the same, in the 50s and 60s. So the pond, I've been to the pond. The pond is not huge, but it's very swampy. It's very dirty and disgusting. It's highly possible that there are bodies buried down underneath that pond.
It's
I
amazing to
wouldn't
me,
doubt it
like
a
before
second.
forensics science, how many people were murdered and dumped off and nobody ever got caught for it, you know?
No, exactly. There's so many, I thought it was funny that this kind of tied in a weird way a little bit to our Utica Twisted Towns
Yeah.
about the mobsters. And,
And your mom and her family and all the
And-
killers that she had in her family. Yeah, come on
Exactly.
over for Christmas.
Exactly. And all this is going on, and I have absolutely no idea that this is going on at the time.
Hey, the turkey was a little dry. Let me show you what I'm going to do about that, eh?
I know. Well, but it's just so weird, gangsters in the 50s and 60s are burying bodies in ponds and up there on Star Hill Road, and Bernard Hatch is supposedly, we know that he was definitely found guilty of Mary Rose Turner's. It was a very circumstantial case, and so there's really no way of knowing. We'll never know for sure whether he really did murder her, whether the other murders, his ex-girlfriend and her sons, we'll never know for sure, and that kind of breaks my heart in a way. But he insists.
You and I need to go there and need to do an investigation. You with your Claire Huxtable. I'll bring a K2 meter, and we'll find out who these people are.
We should. I wish there was a way. I would love to have you come out here and do it because it's great. We're going up there this summer. We're going to go up. I have not been to the actual. No, actually, I'm going with my ghost hunting group this time. My paranormal group. But Dave's a part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Poor Dave.
He did so well, though, at our last investigation. I was really proud of him. So, but we are going to go up because I've never been to the actual place that they found her body. And Dennis, who is part of my group, he knows where that is. He's actually writing a book on the subject. So it won't be out for a long time, but he's actually writing a book on it. He knows where it is, where the body was found. So we're going to go up. Now, here's where...
Well, then is he a suspect? I mean, come on, if you know where the body was found.
No, I think it was pretty well known where the body was found. He actually found it. I don't know. So, but here's where, this is so cool. Here is where legend meets truth, because there have been several reports over the years of a ghostly car driving down the dirt road with and without a body attached to the back. It's also said that you can see headlights from a phantom car on Potato Hill Road at night. Been there, done that, never saw lights, but I do, again, know people who will swear to me up and down that they have seen lights in the rear view mirror.
So then my question becomes this, as we circle back around to our previous conversation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
With that knowledge, people may have stories that they tell, but let's say that these people that you feel are, have some credibility, actually did see it. Now,
yeah.
Are they seeing it because the energy there is presenting something to them that they're expecting to see? Or are they actually seeing something that may or may not have happened? I mean, that it brings it right back around again.
Totally possible. I thought about that myself. If legend has it that you're going to see a man on a horse carrying a lantern, well, that's what you're going to see. If you're going to see anything, you're not going to see a mist. You're going to see a man on a horse,
right, with
a lantern.
And I'm saying if they're actually credible, if they actually did see something and they're not just making it up, and it wasn't just somebody walking through the woods with a flashlight, whatever. Right. If they actually did see something, was it being presented to them in the way they were expecting it to be presented?
Exactly. And we all know that, when you're 17, 18 years old and you're up there thrill seeking, if you want to see something, you just might see it. So
it just brings up such a good point. And the reason why I brought this up is because I heard a story about somebody that had a paranormal experience, younger than us, but the story was very, very similar in ways to the movie The Ring. Okay. Isn't that the one where I know it's one of your favorites, but isn't it that you get a phone call or something like that?
Yeah. You watch the videotape.
Okay. Well, in this one, there were a couple of phone calls, some noise, blah, blah, blah. They saw the thing coming out of the ground, blah, blah, blah. Now, I would never see anything like that. I will see a good old, ghost peeking around a corner, or I'll see a vampire popping up out of a coffin, because that's what I'm associating with, the energies and spirits and being scared. And
I
they
love
see
it.
something else.
I love it. You're right. You're 100% correct, because you see what I think that you see what you not only are maybe fearful of, or, subconsciously feel, maybe if this person is afraid of seeing a hand coming up out of the ground because it freaked her out in a movie, maybe she's going to see that.
Mhm.
Whereas I would never see that, because that's not what I associate a spirit as. All of our experiences are different.
Right.
And I don't discount experiences. I think that we just see what our subconscious, I think you're right. I think it's what we generate is what we'll a lot of times see. Not every
Yeah.
time. It's not 100%. It's not all the time, but I've never seen an apparition forming. And I think that's why it freaks us out so much when we see something we've never experienced before. I don't want to say it like this, but it's not as much of a big deal for me to get an EVP that says hello, as it would be to get an EVP that says, or get out, which is a standard, to an EVP that says, I'm your Aunt Sheila, and
Right.
I had an Aunt Sheila.
Right.
I think that a lot of times, what we're conditioned to believe to be true or real sometimes will manifest itself in that way to us. It doesn't make it any less real, but I think that we have a hand in what we see and experience and feel a lot. There's so many things that the human mind is capable of that we don't even know.
But we're also so stupid because we're not willing to open our minds to what could possibly be there.
Sure. Most of us aren't. That's one thing I've had to struggle to do, is open my mind. I always think, you always think you're open-minded, but you're not really open-minded. Not truly open-minded until you start to open yourself up to possibilities of other things.
Because if I'm going to be honest, like, I really want to be scared of something, if something's going to manifest, I mean, I'm going to have, this is what would scare the shit out of me right here.
Listen, it's a good show. You don't know what a good show is. So, screw you, Todd.
I mean, if I would
Screw
see
you,
that,
Todd. Screw you,
you
Todd.
getting off a plane and in Chicago waiting to come up and see me. I mean,
let's tell everybody about our conversation last night, or semi-conversation. I wanted to get this. My one thing is designer handbags. I love designer handbags. I don't ask for much. I do a lot for charity and everything.
Let's get Dave on and ask, and I'm going to ask.
I don't ask for much. And I found this really cute Kate Spade handbag for a very reasonable price. Authentic. I've got it right off the site.
Say what the reasonable price was.
$89. That's my ladies who know how much designer bags cost. Michael Kors, Coach, Kate Spade, all of them will know what a great deal that was. Beautiful handbag. So I sent him a picture of it, and he's like, "Oh my God, $89. Lord, I can't believe that." So I said, it regularly is like $329, and I can't go to the outlets right now, really. So I said, I got it. So then I said to you, what? I said, are there any outlets in Oshkosh? And you said yes, and Milwaukee and Chicago. And I said, oh, I'm really excited about that, but I won't make you do that with me. We'll just go to the cheese factory and other things. And you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm not going to make you go outlet shopping with me. Dave will have to do it.
$89 handbag. Now, have I spent $89 on a pair of shoes at some point? Yes. How many pairs of shoes do I own right now? It's less than 10 and probably just a few more than 5. So I'm going to guess probably 7 pairs of shoes, and not all of them were $89 pairs of shoes. I can't fathom $89 for a handbag. or a shirt or a pair of pants or anything.
That was an incredible deal. It was an incredible deal.
No, it's not. It's like
$89.
it's like I bought something, I saved $200, but it cost me $1,000. You know,
I'm so glad we don't date.
Listen, you're glad. We wouldn't be here right now.
We'd both be underground. Well, actually, we'd be trees because we would be doing that thing where you just decompose. I was thinking about this morning. I took the dog out and I take all of my, I can't believe we're talking about this, but I take all of my old veggies and stuff and I put them outside, sort of like a composting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about us talking about that. What was it called? Recompose, I think it was called.
Yeah, something like
how
that.
We could just be trees. So if we were dating, we would be both underground decomposing right now as turning into trees.
Well, we would be because we'd kill each other. Is that what you're saying?
Probably.
Yeah, because there's no way.
No, I don't think we'd last that long.
When I say poor Dave, I mean poor Dave. It's not even a joke. That poor man deserves some sort of award.
I think it's like 19 years now.
Were you and him together?
Yeah.
Holy crap. He is like totally deprogrammed.
May 21st is our wedding anniversary. That'll be 16 years. And we dated, like, I tried to get our wedding date to be the same as our first date.
Of course you did.
Which was the 17th.
Of course.
But it was during the week, so we did the 21st. So
this is how I imagine Dave's mind now. Ready? Beep boop boop beep boop beep boop beep boop boop beep boop boop. Yes, Sandy. Beep boop beep boop boop beep beep boop boop. Whatever you say, Sandy. Beep boop beep boop boop.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think I
bought him a shirt yesterday. Yep.
You what?
I bought him a shirt yesterday.
Yeah, like a $5 shirt because you got an $89 bag.
No, I can't believe you think that's expensive. Like, you have no concept of how expensive these bags can be and what a deal I got.
Is expensive. It doesn't matter if it's a Michael Kors or it's a Kmart. It doesn't matter.
Whatever.
$89 for a handbag is ridiculous.
Whatever.
Hey, do you remember this came up in conversation because I was doing some show prep. Today that we're recording this is International Wig Day or something like that. Do you remember back in the day in Kmart, you could walk down the aisle and there would be wigs on display? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And then you could go back and get an icy back in the cafeteria. And then those damn ham and cheese sandwiches and those bad rolls that were on sale. But man, if you wanted a wig, Kmart was the place to go.
Kmart was the place to go. When our Kmart's all closed, obviously.
Yes.
And when we lost our Kmart's, like, I held on to Kmart for years. I remember my mom when I was like 12 years old and I needed my first bra. My mother took me to Kmart and made me try bras on over my clothes in the middle of the aisle.
Yeah,
Can you imagine how embarrassing that was?
It was acceptable back then for people to do that in Kmart. Everybody did that.
Everybody did. And then you could go get like a slice of pizza or a sandwich and a soda afterwards, and everything was okay with the world again. You could get everything at Kmart.
You could get embarrassed by your mom in one aisle, and then in the next aisle feel pretty good about yourself because there was food involved. But I'm thinking when Kmart closed, or when those days went away, when the wig aisles went out of fashion at Kmart, what did the women who needed wigs do?
I don't know.
Every
like, where do you go? I don't even know where you go for wigs today. I know some women still use wigs, especially,
and I'm not ripping on women that use wigs. It was just weird that you could go to Kmart and buy a Kmart wig.
And they'd have the white styrofoam heads.
Yep.
And the wigs would be on the white. I remember that.
And you could try them on.
Yeah. Oh my God, I know. And I remember, like, really, like, that was one of my main reasons for wanting to go to Kmart. Was being able to do stuff like that. Like, you could sneak like the wig on, or when the lady was waiting on somebody else, you could like feel the hair, and it was like stuff that was weird back then, but normal to adults. Like, as a kid, I saw this white styrofoam head with a wig on it. My mother used to wear wigs when I was little. My mother has some great wigs. I'll have to see if I can dig some pictures up of my mother wearing wigs.
Like, I don't even know what to say at this point. What I really liked about going to Kmart is you could sneak in the aisle and touch the hair.
No, but all kinds of stuff, because it was weird back then.
I was trying on bras outside my clothes, and then my mom would walk away, and I'd go touch the wigs. That's the name of your book. I try on bras on the outside of my clothes and then touch the wigs by Sandy.
You take everything and make it creepy.
That was creepy. I didn't have to make it creepy. It was creepy.
Being a kid. It was being like 6 years old. And
see what happens when you touch wigs in Kmart as a kid? You buy $89 handbags. That's what happens.
I'm going to send you so many pictures of that handbag when I get it.
Thank God. I thought you were going to say so many pictures of those wigs.
Yeah, I'm going to send you wigs all week long. For the whole week, I'm going to send you wigs every day.
Oh, crap.
So, all right. So did you have your poll? Do your poll.
I can save it. Let's save it.
Yeah. All right. You want to wrap?
Yeah.
All right. So once again, a huge thank you to everybody who's supporting us. We have some surprises coming up. We have some changes. You know we
Free
do.
wigs for everyone.
Free wigs for everyone.
The Sandy and Todd wigs. They're going to be coming out. Brand new line of wigs.
What was even creepier than the wigs, though, was the white styrofoam heads. And my mother...
You know, what I remember is like kids would take pens or something and they'd poke the eyes.
And they draw.
Or maybe I did that. I can't say.
Maybe it was you, troublemaker. So we have some things. We're going to change things up a little bit with the introduction of Patreon very soon. I hope everybody saw our brand new logo and liked it.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I got to say, John did a great job on that logo. And if you need a logo and you want something a little different, a little fun, he is massively talented and can do a lot of freehand drawing and does a lot of logos for a lot of companies, but he's absolutely incredible. Check out our logo, and I think we've got some information on how you can contact him, but John did a great job. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you, John. I'll put it up in our show notes for this week. Unbelievable. It's so easy to work with. He took, we asked him a few times, can you try this? Can you try that? Can you do this? And he was just fantastic. And
your cartoon character looks a lot like you.
And so does yours. I love your tongue sticking out. Yep, just like that. Just like that.
Wonder if you can put in a couple of wigs.
We can add some wigs to it. But thank you, John. I love our new logo and I'm really excited about it. As usual, you can find us anywhere that you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's so many different places you can find us. Just look for us. Ghana. We still haven't had our Indian followers email us and explain and tell us whether we're actually saying this correctly or not. But I think it's Ghana. And so thank you to Belgium. Again, thank you to all of our listeners in Belgium and to our listeners in Germany and India and all of our U.S. listeners. We can't thank you enough for all of your support. We love you. We're just two BFFs talking about really weird things. And
I hate it when she says BFFs. I hate that.
I know. That's why I say it, because should I say soulmates? We're soulmates.
No, don't say that. There's a reason why you live there and I live here.
You know what? Distance is nothing. Distance makes no difference. So anyways, thank you again to Dan Phillips for letting us use 600 miles. Dan, you can find Dan on Facebook at Daniel Phillips Music and on Instagram at D_Phillips Music. That's right on Instagram. And a big thank you to Dan for that. I love that song. And he has some great music. He's also on Etsy. He sells merchandise on Etsy. He does he does a couple of different kinds of music. He does spoken word, but he also does it's called Danny Stitches. It's his alter ego. And he does some really dark Halloween-y, I love that word, Halloween-y type stuff. So check him out, Dan Phillips.
I knew somebody that had that predicament, had to go see a doctor. So
he had a Halloween-y?
Yeah.
But I'm going to put a rim shot in there. That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Wig girl. So be sure to check out our Facebook page, the Sandy and Toddcast. I think, Todd, let's do a giveaway when we reach a certain amount of followers on our Facebook page.
I love it. Wigs and handbags for everybody.
We'll give away wigs and handbags, and maybe I love wedge shoes. So maybe we'll do a pair of wedge heels. No, we'll do a giveaway when we reach, let's say we'll do a giveaway when we reach 600. We're just shy of 5. Let's see if we can reach 600 followers on our Facebook page, the Sandy and Toddcast, and we'll do a giveaway.
All right, let's see if we can get some t-shirts to give away.
Yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun.
All right,
and again, Patreon is coming soon, and you can always email us, the Sandy and Toddcast at gmail.com. We have WhatsApp hooked up to our Facebook page now. I finally figured that out. I am not
Okay.
technically good with anything,
Probably,
but I figured that
probably
out.
if somebody uses it, they'll get in touch with the Vatican instead of in touch with our podcast.
Probably, it wouldn't surprise me, but you can message us.
The Pope's like, what is this?
All right. I have no idea what we're talking about next week, but more weird stuff, I'm sure. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.